Hey there, this is Gwen Valentic Morrison, bringing you another tool to help you manifest change in your life. Have you heard the saying, everything is connected, or we are all one, or we create our own reality? Maybe you're like me, and you yourself say it pretty frequently. But have you ever stopped to really think about the implications of that? How far-reaching those statements are, if they're true? What does that mean? We are all one, and we are all connected, and we create our reality. We usually think of that in terms of maybe our close circle of friends or the people we come into contact with most often. But what if it really means everybody? Dr. Len Hugh is a Hawaiian psychologist who took that to the next level. And he added in the idea of personal responsibility to the next level. So not just being personally responsible for our thoughts and actions and how they might affect those around us, but how our thoughts and actions and everything up into our life, how has that contributed to everything outside of our life? It's a big one. The technique I'm going to bring for you today is called Ho'oponopono, and it's an ancient Hawaiian technique for forgiveness and reconciliation. And it's really wonderful for resolving conflicts with people, whether it's your partner, could be children, a coworker, the guy that cut you off in the morning. So those, for some people those things are big and other people those things are small. Dr. Len Hugh decided to use this technique with his patients, who happened to be residents of the psychiatric ward. Not just for anybody, but for the criminally insane. In this ward, it was not a nice place to be. Staff didn't want to be there. They would often call in sick or not show up. Psychologists quit all the time. Staff had to walk through the halls with their back against the wall for fear of ever putting themselves in any kind of vulnerable position with these really violent, scary patients, many of whom had to be shackled 24/7, immobile to their bed, many of whom had to be on heavy medication dosages which hadn't changed in a really long time. Nobody had ever been released from there either. So he agreed to work there. He said, give me an office and I'll review their files, but I'm not going to meet with anybody. He never met with anybody. He reviewed the files one by one, and he would hold in his mind and in his heart, he would hold each patient, and he would look at what aspects of himself needed healing that may have contributed in some way to the current presentation of this individual. And that's all he did. He recognized that the only difference between himself and these people were a handful of decisions. And those decisions were made because of different life circumstances than he had had. He would have been able to make different decisions given, those particular situations. But they didn't have the same first grade teacher, they didn't have the same parents, they didn't have the same nutrition, they didn't have the same first grade teacher, they hadn't read the same books or seen the same TV shows. They didn't have the same coping mechanisms and skills and learning. And all of those things are what allow you to make a certain decision compared to somebody else. That's all. So is it really fair then to demonize people for the decisions they make when really we're all just doing the best we can with what we've got in the moment? And our best changes depending on when we're sick or when we're tired or when we're stressed or have had different things happen to us. Your best today might be better or worse than your best 10 years ago depending on the learning that you've been able to have, or circumstances that seemed out of control. And that's all. But everything can be healed. So this practice has like a short version and a long version and a super short version, because what Dr. Len Hugh did, he would hold the patients in his mind and in his heart, and he would look at their file, and he just kept repeating over and over, I'm sorry, I love you, I'm sorry, I love you, over and over and over and over and over and over and over, until he felt at peace with that person, till there was no longer any judgment, any anger, anything other than peace and love for this person. The longer version, slightly longer, is I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you can repeat those statements over and over and over again. And what I'm going to take you through today is a longer version that might help to integrate some of this information for you and open your heart and open your mind to that possibility that we really do all come from the same place, and underneath all the layers and baggage and pain and hurt and nastiness that sometimes we put upon ourselves to protect ourselves from other things, underneath all that, we are all the same. Pure source energy, beings of light and love. So, here's how it's going to work today. We'll do the little prayer, or you won't do the little prayer. That's totally up to you. And then I'm going to take you through the extended version. So what I'd like you to do is just make sure that you're sitting somewhere comfortably. Take a few deep breaths to clear yourself and settle yourself in. One more good deep breath. And now I invite you to say a little prayer or a wish to the higher power of your understanding, requesting healing for your highest good of everything that you're consciously aware of. And ask that your higher self bring forth, heal, and clear anything else that needs to be released for you at this time on a DNA, cellular, and morphogenic level. And I'm going to say my little prayer. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's begin. So just allow someone that you still have an issue with to come to mind. Just the first person that comes to mind. And sense or imagine that person is right there in front of you. And you are facing each other, looking into each other's eyes. Now say the following out loud until you feel completely at peace. Just like me, this person is seeking happiness in his or her life. Just like me, this person wants to be loved and accepted. Just like me, this person is trying to avoid suffering in his or her life. Just like me, This person has known sadness, loneliness, suffering, and even despair. Just like me, this person has felt abandoned, rejected, misunderstood, and not good enough. Just like me, this person is seeking to fulfill his or her needs. Just like me, this person has good days and bad days. Just like me, this person makes decisions without full thought or consciousness. Just like me, this person is learning about life. Now take a moment to honestly reflect on how you at times have behaved like them or felt the way they do at any point in your life. At any point in your life that you have shown anger, that you have held vengeful thoughts, that you have shown aggression to another living thing, that you have forced your will on something, that you have been insensitive, that you have been uncaring, that you have caused pain, intentionally or unintentionally. Just allow these moments to come. There's no need to censor or justify anything. Just allow them to come. Now say these words. I recognize that in me. Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Ho'oponopono. I recognize that in me. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Ho'oponopono. I recognize that in me. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. Continue to say these words until you feel completely at peace about this person. You might have to stop and rewind this video to go back, to repeat one or more times until you feel at peace. Once you feel at peace with this person, repeat these words. To my husband or wife, past husbands or wives, my children, my mother and father, sisters and brothers, relationships, past and present, co-workers, and anyone in the world I have hurt in any way, intentionally or unintentionally. Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. When done on a regular basis, a daily basis for someone that you have an issue with, the results are incredible. For Dr. Lin Hugh, it took a few months. For these patients to reduce their violent tendencies, patients who had been shackled were allowed to roam free. Staff enjoyed showing up to work. Medications were able to be reduced, and patients began to be released. Through healing himself, that healing rippled out for these people. How often do we hold judgment for someone? How often do you hear of a murderer and you just can't shake it? And then you drive down the highway and you realize that your car later is covered in dead bugs. With the exception of some Buddhists, we are all murderers. As a child, you might not remember, but chances are you went to grab toys from other people's hands, forcing your will on them. This might seem petty to you, but it's not. In this society, we like to place degrees on actions, and certainly in some cases it's warranted. I'm not trying to negate or minimize anything or any experience that anybody has had. This practice for most people doesn't feel sufficient enough for the big things, for the big monsters, for the ones who have done terrible things to us. But you can break down all of those events into smaller bite-sized things that could fit. Forcing your will on someone, lying, cheating, seeking out pleasure for your own gain. When you break things down to their base particles, it is easy to see at points in our life we have expressed many or all of those traits that we find so disturbing in others. And that's why, for many people, you can get such an emotional charge from those things, from thinking about those traits. Because we haven't yet accepted that we too possess those same traits. It's like you have electrical switches on the body, like to plug in. Some are open and some are closed and covered. You can't plug in. Traits that you've accepted as part of your own character, that you have displayed at some point in your life, are closed. And traits that you have not yet accepted that you possess and have shown at some point in your life are open and people can plug into them. So once you recognize you have displayed that trait, and at some point in your life it was of benefit to you, now you have control over that trait. Until then, it will rear its ugly head when you least want it to. So what does that mean? Being a bitch isn't good all the time. But if you've got renos on your house and you've got some workmen coming in that aren't respecting your wishes and are coming late and taking long breaks and leaving a mess, sometimes it pays to be a bitch to get things done, but you don't want to do that all the time. There is no good or bad. It's just labels we put on stuff. They just are. So this exercise is all about acceptance and forgiveness and gratitude. Gratitude for the learning, for the awareness it brings to us of who we are, so we can now grow even more into who we really are. Gratitude for bringing the experience of forgiveness so that we can remember who we are and who each other is. Beings of light and love. Every last one of us. Victims of victims of victims of victims of victims. But with this practice, you can break that chain. We're all healing. You're ready. I love you. Go make an amazing day. If you have questions about anything, if it's just not clear, if you just think this is total BS, let me know. Let's work it out. I'll see you soon.